Here we go. Hey, you made it. Well, although you're muted, I can't hear you.
I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?
I know. You look the same. You look like you're getting younger. Is that possible?
Oh my gosh. Well, what a nice compliment.
Aw. Oh, what a way to start a happy hour, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly what you want to do. So awesome. Congratulations for being right on stage. The screenshot must have helped. You're good to go. So I am excited that you are with me today. Can't wait to hear what's on your mind. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm usually trying to dial in at the last minute and then I'm stressing out because I can't find the link. So today I was a Girl Scout and I planned ahead.
Well done. Well done. So
thank you.
Yeah. So for everybody joining, welcome. This is the LinkedBanker Happy Hour event. We go live every second Thursday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern time. These are unscripted, unplanned. I want to say unintentional, but they are very intentional because we want to go live every second Thursday. But they go live on LinkedIn, on my profile, which where most people join. But I also push them out to Facebook. So if I have any of my Facebook friends, welcome. And then on the LinkedBanker, we also have a YouTube channel and it ends up over there. So we're using Restream to syndicate across multiple platforms. And so depending on wherever it is that you are coming from, welcome. Excited that you're here. And if you're interested in coming up like what Martha did and being on the stage and being part of the conversation, we've got the link down below. If you go to www.thelinkedbanker.com/happy hour, scroll down just a little bit. There's a button on the left-hand side that you can click on. That'll get you access to the Restream. You can come in. I'll see you in the waiting room. Click your pretty face or handsome face or just face and bring you into the room, and you can be part of the discussion. So the more the merrier. We love when people show up, and just these are intended to basically see what's on your mind. What do you want to talk about? Boasts, brags, cool stuff, complaints, commiserate, maybe a little therapy session every once in a while. So you just never know. But yeah. So Martha is up with us, and I'm certainly excited that you're here. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to hide the stream so we can see your name. You haven't been on a happy hour for a while, so in case there's some folks that have been on recently and you've not been able to because you're a busy gal, introduce yourself. What do you do? Give us a little backstory, and then I'm curious, you got any topic that you want to kick off our happy hour with?
Well, thank you, Eric. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Okay, for those of you who are lurking and are afraid to come up on stage, just don't be afraid. It's really not intimidating, and it'll be more fun if there's more than just myself joining. So
we'll make it work.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
I'm Martha Bartlett Pylan, President and CEO of Banktastic. We are located in Topeka, Kansas, smack dab in the middle of the country. And we're a branding and marketing firm who works with banks, credit unions, other financial brands. And we're passionate about branding and passionate about strategy. And for those, if you don't know, I have a book, Don't Just Brand There, Do Something. So I don't just talk about branding, but I, put out their content to hopefully help others.
I was going to say, you have 2 books. You're being very modest, but you have 2 books.
Thank you. I do have 2.
I've got them right next to Allison Netzer's Think Like a Brand, Not Like a Bank book, which is another one of my favorite banker books. So all sorts of good stuff there. So yeah, very cool. So do you have a topic or an idea or something that you'd like to kick off the happy hour with?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe this might be too granular, but I'm interested in hearing what people think. And when you said Allison Netzer, that also kind of connected the dots because she's been doing a lot of talking about swag. And
Yes.
people have been at conferences and we're out and about. And, swag is tricky because if you're going to give it to someone who's traveling, it's got to fit in their suitcase. And don't give them coffee because TSA thinks you're smuggling something. And I learned firsthand knowledge.
Firsthand
Um,
knowledge. Yeah. Not that it's a recent thing for you or anything like that, right? It just, you read it on the internet, right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have got to give them something that really connects to your brand. Like everybody gives koozies and everybody gives like some of that same old stuff. And so I was curious about, is somebody doing something interesting and cool that really supports their brand promise? And if so, I would love to hear about it.
Yeah. Oh boy. And it's interesting. So I was in Springfield, Illinois, just yesterday. It's not exactly right around the corner for me up here in northern Michigan, but I do their marketing forums, and there's just no easy way to get there in an airplane. So I just make the drive down and get caught up on my podcasts and my audiobooks, and I chat with Chat GPT, and she keeps me company. But swag, giveaways, stuff always seems to make the agenda for a lot of the marketing forums that I do. And um, keeping things on brand is kind of hard. There was a bank that was there that's got kind of a corn theme to it, and one of the marketers had some really interesting corn themed giveaways. Excuse me. One of them, like you've seen the corn stickers that go on the ends so that you don't have to get your fingers all buttery. They actually like twisted and slid together, and it looked like a little mini corn cob. The tricky part was putting them back together without poking your finger and turning it into a, Red Cross blood prick testing tool. But he showed me plans for actually, they developed a diagram that turned into a CAD drawing for a rubber ducky wearing an ear of corn as a hat. And so they have really leaned into the corn thing, and it's in the process of actually being manufactured by a company and buying a bunch of ducks with corn hats, which looked kind of cool. He had a mock-up of it. But being on brand, there were a number of banks that were also celebrating big milestone anniversaries, like 120, 150 years. And when they had some of the swag, whether it was a t-shirt that they were giving out at like school sporting events or footballs or cushy balls or pizza cutters, they were grabbing some of the old logos of the bank as the bank had grown up over the years and incorporated those and doing some retro stuff, kind of leaning into days gone by where, you kind of look at the logo and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was our logo, 75 years ago or whatever the case is. So there was some of that in the conversation as well. Sunglasses seem to be the big hit as far as parades and events and everything, because then people are walking around with them and you've got the names of the bank on the sides. Kind of shying away from the giveaways of the candy and all the stuff that doesn't necessarily have any sort of branding associated with it. So I don't know if that helps. I don't know if there's any other items that you've seen from others. And certainly if anybody is out there in listening land and has got some thoughts, we do have the ability, if you want to throw an idea or a comment, we can keep an eye on the chat and we can kind of see what it is that you're saying. So
I saw somebody had a LinkedIn post recently about some conference they attended, and it was a vendor, not a bank, but they gave everybody like really fluffy, warm throws because
okay.
the conference rooms are always so cold, and
Yeah.
especially women are always freezing. So I thought that was a really cool idea. I don't know if it was branded to support the company that gave them, but it was certainly memorable and probably really appreciated.
Got it.
I was trying to think about things like for instance, if your brand is something about making banking easy, like what kinds of things that make your life easier could you give? And could that be like those easy buttons that we used to see on, I don't know, one of those office supply stores, or like, I don't know, just I was really curious about, are people sort of taking that to the next step and saying this supports what I'm saying about us and that is different?
Yeah, yeah. I believe Staples was the one with the easy button. I do
Okay.
remember that. I do remember that. Although there are some really good commercials that have cool taglines that at the end of the day, you have no foggy clue who the brand is. You just remember the punchline. But I do remember the Staples easy button. So I'll give them credit for that. Um, yeah, I mean, we didn't get into a lot of that, tying it back to the specific brand itself. Um, I do know that there was a lot of conversation around our country celebrating 250 years. And so there was a lot of discussion around red, white, and blue, and flags, and bunting, and like the glow sticks in the red, white, and blue theme. A lot of it going into the fairgrounds or other sorts of community events, because it was, all community banks from around the state of Illinois. So a lot of banks are in rural areas where they've got local county fairs, and bankers are typically very visible at those events. But being able to hand out stuff that's then visible, so when the lights go down, everybody's walking around with these red, white, and blue things, and you know that came from the bank. So creating some visibility beyond just a logo was one of the items, but it's more branding of the US of A with 250 versus the bank itself, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's a good thing to think about, because as any business, whether it's a financial brand or other, if you could lean into your brand, like the corn concept, and to be able to kind of, oh, you see that and you kind of know what it is. Um, you could get the Cushy balls, or, I mean, you don't have to spend a ton of money with custom manufacturing to be able to put something together. There's probably a lot of different variations of little trinkets and things that, would go along with your brand, or some sort of a tagline. So like one of the banks was giving away kind of retro back to yardsticks, kind of in celebration of their history. And you used to always get your yardsticks from your bank. I have a little tagline on there. Here at XYZ Bank, we go the extra yard just for you, kind of thing. Something, I don't know, that's kind of cheesy, but
No, it's totally cool. I love it.
yeah. So one of the ideas, and I'm waiting, one of these days, somebody is going to steal this idea and I'll feel good that it finally goes. But I always wanted, at Marshall Savings Bank, I always wanted to go out and buy just a ton of pens and have it say Marshall Savings Bank, the right bank for you. But it was WRITE. And then you just leave pens at restaurants and any place where somebody would need to sign a receipt or do some sort of and they're getting Marshall Savings, the right bank for you, but they play off of the word right. I couldn't get traction on it. I should have just went and bought a bazillion pens and started peppering them across the community. But by the time that idea popped in my head, we were going through our acquisition and we got bought by another bank, and then it kind of failed. But playing off that word, right versus write down versus right is correct. I always thought that might have had some legs to it. So I don't know, another cheesy idea, but
If it's
who
a
knows?
really good pen, it's great.
Yes, we had the Bic Click pens, and those were amazing. I always had two in my pocket. It was kind of like a running joke, so I always had one to give away. But they wrote really, really well, and they weren't that expensive. So
It's got to be good swag. I found
yeah.
I was at home with my mother last weekend for Mother's Day, and I was
Uh-huh.
helping her cook, and I pulled out her measuring spoons, and she had them all linked together with a Prairie State Bank keychain holder. in the shape of a nickel, and Prairie State Bank was on the back, I guarantee you that thing was 30 years old at
Oh
least.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that bank exists anymore, but
The
but it
measuring
was
cups
good.
lasted longer than the bank did. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. Too funny. Yeah, I think, and I've seen a lot of Allison's stuff as well, as far as swag and giveaways and whatnot. I think getting over or getting past, because a lot of times it was referred to as trinkets and trash because you bought the cheapest stuff just to put your name on it. If it's something that's got quality value to it, it'll stick around. Like the measuring cups is a good idea. Pizza cutters seem to be like all the rage, and there's a pizza cutter that's got a wheel that comes completely out so you can clean it. And one of the marketers had one of those in their bag, pulled out as an example, and all the marketers were like, "Ooh, that's a really good one." So they were like all enamored. Like there's the Cadillac of swaggy pizza cutters now. That
We'll help
actually,
you get a bigger piece of the pie. We'll help you keep a bigger piece of the pie. I don't know.
oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So you probably don't want to go down the pineapple because that's a very divisive. People are either anti-pineapple or pro-pineapple. You rarely hear somebody say, "Yeah, I could take it or leave it." So, I feel the urge to ask you if it's pizza, do you put pineapple on pizza? What do you think? Is that a
I
yes or no?
I don't, but I wouldn't die if somebody decided that they
Okay.
wanted that kind of pizza.
Okay.
I
So
guess I'd be the one that'd be like, meh, it's all
you
right.
would be, yeah. I've always thought you were kind of a unicorn, and this is proving it. So I am very much a fan of pineapple on pizza, but I have been in the presence of others where I've mentioned that, and you would have thought blasphemy rolled out of my mouth, and they were ready to just no longer have pizza with me when they heard that suggestion. So I guess it is what it is. So anyway, what else are you thinking about these days? It's been a while since we've talked. Have you been at any events? Have you presented at any conferences? You got any cool projects going on? Anything that you're learning that you want to share with our banker friends and others in the financial space?
Oh gosh, that's all kinds of stuff
I
going on.
know. I'm just loading you up with questions. I do that really
Um,
well.
I presented a personal branding workshop. Was it last week or the week before? I don't know. Time just seems like it's flying so fast. And I think that's one of those things that people ought to be doing more thinking about, not just in terms of, well, what's my personal brand on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
but what's my purpose? What are my strengths? What are the solutions I bring to an important target audience, whoever that is, and then
Yeah.
like thinking, how do I use that then to make choices about what I'm going to sign up for at work, what I'm going to sign up for volunteer wise, like all of these things. And so, we got into some really good deep discussion on that.
Nice.
Um, Sometimes at first people sort of like the pineapple, they go, oh no, no, people as a brand, that's gross. Like, but with some good thought about why we do it, I
Yeah.
think that's extremely valuable.
Yeah. Well, even if you look at the statistics and the most recent LinkedIn algorithm even further takes this, I don't want to say to an extreme, but in almost all the platforms, people want to connect with people, not with brands. You probably have way more connections than your agency's LinkedIn page or your Facebook page. I know that's definitely the case for me. And as I was talking about, because that did come up yesterday in the marketing forum as well, how do you get people who should be building their personal brand? You think of the salespeople inside of a financial institution, the lenders, the business development officers, the branch managers. They're the ones that should be out meeting people, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that stuff, doing it virtually, but then having a personal brand from a digital perspective that still reinforces who you are. Because I think to a lot of extent, people don't understand, or they maybe underestimate the impact of what your digital personal brand either can do to help or to hurt your in-person personal brand. Because just about every banker that I've ever met, and you've always got to leave that caveat for the few weird ones, but they are amazing people. And if you get a chance to talk to them, they're passionate. They want to help the community. They're doing it for the right reason. The financial community banking space is a noble profession that helps people achieve their dreams. And so when you talk to them, you get that sense. But if you go to their LinkedIn or you see if you don't have that opportunity to speak with them, you're not getting that message. You don't get the opportunity to feel that passion. And that could be an opportunity lost because somebody else could be doing that. And you decide, well, that feels like a better fit for me. So I'm just going to reach out to that person or connect with that person. And people are maybe getting eliminated from that selection or consideration process unintentionally because they're just either not comfortable, they don't understand why it matters. But people really want to connect with people. So I've got a lingering cough that kept me from going on a trip to California a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still a little bitter about it. I was supposed to be at Social Media Marketing World in person, and for the first time ever, I had to back out of an event because I just got run down and something crawled in me and would not go away. So I've got that catchy little coffee thing when I talk too much, which I've been talking a lot today. But anyway, I digress. But personal branding, absolutely hugely important. And sounds like you had an amazing session. Was it across? It wasn't just financial service providers, though. Did you say
Correct.
that?
It was a mix of people.
Okay.
And different roles within their organization. So, HR and
Yep.
accounting and like a variety of people. So,
Yeah.
so it was a varied group. But here's the other thing, Eric, I was thinking about, like what you were saying about helping people on LinkedIn feel comfortable with me, know me, like maybe you've kind of built some trust.
Yep.
I sometimes think well, there are two things. One, sometimes banks don't want their people to be too active out there because they think, oh, somebody's going to poach them.
Oh man, I hate
Which
it
I
when they
think
say that.
that's really short-sighted.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But the other thing is also, I think we have to be careful that we don't create this cult of personality for banker A. So if banker A switches to a different bank, those customers want to go that way too. That's tricky.
Yeah. The sister statement or thought to that, if my employees look awesome on LinkedIn, somebody's going to poach them and then they're going to leave me. There's also kind of the fable debate between, sales and the CFO kind of thing, or well, what if we spend all this money training our employees and then they leave us? We can't spend that much money on training. And then the counterpoint is, what if we don't train them and they stay? And it's like, which one is it? And you almost have to, it's like a double-sided coin. You, I think, need to give them the tools to build their brand, to create somewhat of a cult of personality so that they can be that recognizable authority figure. But the other side of the coin is management needs to create the culture and the environment where even if someone comes along with a little carrot, they don't want to leave. They're like, no, I got a good thing going here. I'm trusted. I got the tools that I need. I've got the technology that makes it easy to do my job. I've got flexibility. And at the end of the day, somebody might wave 20 grand in front of you and really entice and pull you away. But how can you reduce those friction points so that it's got to be something just god awful huge before they would even give it consideration? And I think that's a harder thing for anybody in management to take seriously and to build, because now that's working on your internal culture to create that culture of retention. And that might not be as easy to do. It might not be as tangible or as clear a path as it is to teach someone how to be a thought leader on LinkedIn and share information and understand their ICP and building content and those sorts of things. But it's interesting that you say that, because I hear that a lot when I do LinkedIn training as well, is we're not allowed to be on LinkedIn because management's worried that if we look too good, we're going to get stolen and go someplace else.
So
Yeah.
I think that that means that there should be multiple bankers having relationships with those customers and clients, not just
Yeah,
one.
that's a good point. Yep.
But also, I love what you said about the culture. Of course, I would like that. And
Got
and
figured.
yesterday, our the leadership forum for one of our clients, that we ran their leadership program internally again. They had their graduation yesterday, and people know at that bank that the bank is investing in them to do this kind of work with them.
Yeah,
And they reported that 12 of their first vice presidents are people who have graduated from this internal leadership program.
that's cool.
And so that was really cool to see that they're invested in, they recognize it, they're staying and they're advancing. And that was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. There was one other thought that I had. I should really write these things down when they pop into my head, because I was like, ooh, that triggered a thought. And then I'm like, I'll remember it. Not. So let me grab a pen for the next time that happens. So not what it originally was going to be, but I will kind of go back to social media marketing world. So even though I couldn't travel to Anaheim, I converted my all access ticket into a virtual ticket. So I was able to sit through 2.5 days worth of sessions, coughing and sneezing and having a head that felt like I still had earbuds in, because it was just chock full of congestion. But there were a number of sessions that talked about, and this kind of plays off of this personal relationship, know me, like me, trust me, that people are getting a lot savvier with sniffing out AI slop, whether it's an AI generated PowerPoint, if it's an AI handout, if it's AI copy for a blog or a LinkedIn post or social media, if it's an AI picture, because a vast majority of people aren't taking their AI game to the next level to really think about how you incorporate your personal brand into the AI. And we're starting to explore the concept of creating a personal skill, like a markdown file that has essentially the blueprint, the digital DNA of who you are. So you can load that into any platform, and it says, this is Eric Cook. He likes to use humor and sarcasm. He rides a mountain bike. He's got 2 golden retrievers. He was a banker for 15 years. Da 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 da. And then some writing samples, writing styles, communication, words I like, words I don't like. And then you can pick that up and use it inside of ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot or Gemini or wherever it needs to go. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to sound like you, but it's going to help if you're using AI to create content as part of your brand building process, so that it's going to sound more like you than maybe if you hadn't had done that. But there was also a very interesting thought that a lot of people had said, is the resurgence of in real life, like the branding session that you did or the leadership session that you facilitated. You are there in person, or if not, you're doing some virtually, but I'm assuming both of those were in-person sessions. I think there's going to be people that are going to crave that. Like, I don't want any more of this amazing, awesome, overloading content that AI can generate. Yes, it's educational and it's informational and it's so good. I just want to sit down with a human and just have a conversation over a cup of coffee or a drink at the bar after the conference is over and pick your brain. And it gave me kind of a warm fuzzy, because that's what we're trying to do with these happy hours and with the LinkedBanker mentoring and mastermind community, is how do we bring the humans together to be human together? And so a lot of people are saying that was a trend. And the last thing that I'll mention, and I'm curious on your thoughts, is, I don't know if you know Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he has been like, he's always predicted, he's like Snapchat, get on it. And everybody's like, no, Snapchat's dumb. The messages disappear. Why would you do that? And it went big, and it still is big for a certain demographic. So he's been on top of things. He's predicting that there is going to be a resurgence to an analog segment where these nightclubs or restaurants or events, you show up, you put your phone in a bag, it goes in a locker, and you just enjoy dinner and have some drinks and completely forget about, oh shit, I got to post this on LinkedIn. Oh, I got to take a picture of my food and put it over on Instagram. Oh, I got to do this. It forces you to step away from that. And I will tell you, I've been to one concert. I went to a Tool concert, and Maynard, who is their lead singer, said no electronic devices. And if you saw one out, the security team was instructed to take it from you. And so I totally had no urge. And it was probably one of the more enjoyable concerts because I was watching it with my own eyes, not through the lens of my camera, even though at the end of the show, he got on stage and used some expletives, but he's like, all right, you effers, I know you've wanted to do this all show long. Get your cameras out. You can take pictures of this song only. And then thanks for coming out. And everybody's camera came out and the lights were on. And so everybody got at least a couple of pictures of their Tool concert. But up until that point, it was a very different feeling. And it was actually kind of a cool feeling. And so with Gary now talking about that as being, hey, this drive to analog, in person, reduce the digital distractions, and just be present with the person that's sitting across from you or the people that are at your table. I think that I don't doubt that. I think that's going to be something that's going to be kind of cool. So there's my dump. I'm really curious what you have to say about all of that.
Well, I agree. I think people are hungry for it. And also, I think some of them find it terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I have to have a conversation with somebody. In fact, I've got a bank that's having me come do a workshop in June on how to have a conversation, how to go up to somebody you don't know, start a conversation, talk back and forth with them, because people are so intimidated by that because we've been behind a screen so long. So we want it, but it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. I'll be really curious to hear how that goes. And I'm going to assume that it's going to be predominantly a lot of younger folks.
Yes.
That have grown up with a screen instead of another human being in front of them. But I don't know. There might be some other more introverted older individuals, I guess, that may attend, but I'm betting it's going to be probably more of the younger generation trying to figure out how do you start a conversation with another carbon-based life form that has a beating heart. And so that'll be
the other part of that, though, is like if you've ever gone to like the chamber networking event or things like that, there are those people who just talk and talk and talk. And like,
I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know.
No, I mean, but really, they don't want to volley back and forth, and they don't want to learn about this person. And so, all of us are salespeople. Of course we are. We have to learn about the person.
Yeah.
So, some of the seasoned executives probably could also benefit from a little practice.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to hit pause real quick, just give another reminder. So if anybody out there is watching us and enjoying the conversation, but would like to chime in, or maybe you're like, yeah, you and Martha, you got this, keep going. That's cool too. But if you'd like to hop in and come up and join us on stage or on the big screen and just share what's on your mind and chime in, go over to the linkbanker.com/happy hour. And there's a button there over, scroll down a little bit to the left, and that will bring you into the restream. And I'll keep an eye out in the waiting room. So we'd love to have you join us. So feel free to pop over and say, hey. I want to go back to your brand building exercise that you conducted, because you said there were different industries, different businesses, and different people in different roles.
Mhm.
Were there any that stood out either at one end or the other, where either this business seemed like they got it and they really understood it, or this type of role, or were there roles that were like, I don't know why I would want to build a personal brand and how I would relate, or any businesses that seemed a little more resistant than others? I'm just curious if anything like that revealed itself while you were doing your session.
I don't think it's the industry so much as it is the role. I mean, we're
Okay.
attracted to certain roles because of our strengths and the way our brains work. So if you're an accountant or an actuary, or people that are really deep into numbers, it's
Yeah.
hard for them to think about themselves as a brand. Whereas somebody in HR or marketing or maybe some other things can grok onto that a little bit faster.
Sure.
So we have exercises. I have a list of questions to ask them to kind of help them tease some of that out. Like, what are you really good at now? What were you really good at as a child? Is there something about you that people always recognize as a first impression? And, things like that. So we kind of take them through some things like that, so they've got some chance for some introspection. But then I pair them up with somebody else, and then they
Hmm.
have to talk about these things together. And it's kind of like when you use ChatGPT to interview you. It's actually better when you're having a real person interview
Yeah.
you, or you're having this conversation back and forth. Well, what have
Yep.
you observed about me? And
Yep.
things like that. And so sometimes that's where those light bulb moments come on, because they're having a conversation, and then people can say, oh yeah, I recognize that now that you say it.
Yep.
So yes, because it is hard for some people. You might sometimes will ask, well, if you had a soundtrack, if your brand had a soundtrack, what kind of music would that be? Or if you were a vehicle, what would that be? And
Yeah.
some people are like, oh yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
in a Mercedes SUV. And some people are like, what? No, that makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So, you
Have,
know,
have I shown you my Metallica concert poster over here to the right? I mean, speaking of soundtrack, so um, what what just triggered in my mind, and I didn't need to write this down because it's recent enough, but one of the bankers at the marketing forum, as you kind of think about having conversation at a chamber event, they were struggling with getting their employees to recognize opportunities to answer questions when customers were coming in. And I think one of the examples was, a customer comes in with lots of money and they're not making much on interest. Instead of taking the lead and saying, well, we've got a high yield money market account that we could put some of your money in. Do you really need all this inside of your checking account where you're really not earning anything? We get that. Um, Not even looking for those cues. And the term role playing came up, which is what triggered this thought. And I said, well, have you tried role playing? And she just started laughing. She's like, the concept of role playing scares the hell out of my staff, because they just wouldn't know what to do. And part of me feels sorry, but also empathizes, because I know there's a lot of banks that have staff members that during the hiring process, what are the questions that banks typically look for when it comes to teller staff? Are you reliable? Do you have good number skills? Can you balance a drawer? Rarely, maybe more so now, but rarely was the conversation around, what are your sales skills? What are your interpersonal skills? Are you doing any sort of like a personality assessment tool to determine their conversational style, their emotional intelligence, their outgoingness, introvert versus extrovert, to see if you're really hiring a salesperson or a transaction machine that can cash checks and balance their drawer at the end of the day? And I don't know how you overcome that if you've got people that have been hired and they're just simply not the right personality. Is there another role for them in the organization, and you fill those in with someone else? I'm curious if that's something that any of your banks struggle with, and I'm suspecting the answer is probably yes, unless you've got a bunch of unicorn banks. But how involved do you get in those conversations, and how have you helped them kind of get beyond that so that people aren't thinking, I got to be a salesperson and sell everybody something, versus I'm looking for opportunities to help people, and knowing products and services and asking the right questions allows for me to do that. It's, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot are struggling, and we have done some training on that. It's been a while,
Hmm.
um, but it does feel like the role playing is so much more intimidating with your peers than it is with a customer. I don't know why, but it's very important, because if you can do it right, then your frontline people have more confidence to ask these questions or make these observations. But I think a lot of them are scared that they're going to do the wrong thing, mess something up.
Yep.
But some of that also perhaps goes to data, like how much data do they have in front of them when they are having a conversation with a customer? Can they see that this customer has other relationships or does not? And are there any, does that system give them any prompts? Like
Yeah.
that would be fantastic. I don't know. What do you see? What do you see?
Well, I see the struggle and I know it's real. And I know I've just spent like the last 20 minutes talking about be in person and be real time and work with other humans and cherish the relationship. But in this case, one of the suggestions that I made was inside of an AI language model that has voice technology and you can talk to it, you may actually be able to get people over the hump to get comfortable with role playing with another human if you can build an agent inside of a language model that assumes the role of a customer. You give it a prompt, you're an aging customer with a high balance certificate of deposit account, and you don't understand banking products and services, and you're going to have a conversation with a younger teller, and somehow set it up that way, because now you're just interacting with a technology. You could go into an office, shut the door, and nobody's going to know how dumb you sound or how smart you sound or how any way you sound. And that might be a way where AI or technology could be the training wheels to get you to a point to have confidence where either you learn some things and you're like, oh, now I know that better, or it validates that, wow, I actually do know what I'm talking about. But in either case, then when you get in front of a colleague, your role playing is more comfortable. And then when you get in front of a customer, you'll be able to knock it out of the park. And I think that role playing from a technology perspective, one of my friends is the kind of founder, co-CEO of Lemonade LXP. Do you know John Finley?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a really interesting conversation with him at ICBA Live, and we've been on a couple of demos. And he's shown me some of the stuff that his platform is doing as it relates to role playing and interactivity and sales training, because it's an amazingly cool training and learning system. And the things that they're building from a technology perspective to make it feel like it's a human interaction to then prepare you for the real human interaction was just absolutely mind-blowing. It was really cool. I mentioned Lemonade LXP in the conversation yesterday and kind of threw their name out. But that's where I think a technology like AI can help get people over that hump, because that generation probably is comfortable with technology. So it's going to be an easier experience for them, but then give them the reassurance or the confidence that when it moves to a real human being that's not a technology that you can just press a button and make it shut up, that they'll have a little bit more confidence to do it right.
I love that idea,
Yeah,
because really that technology could help them with the role play, but it could also give them a little debrief afterward.
absolutely. Like, tell me what I did right. Tell me what I did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've got a good friend of mine down in Oklahoma City. He's been on these a couple of times. Gunnar Hood, he's a fellow WSI consultant. He actually built a really cool custom GPT and I'm going to get the name of it wrong, but it's basically like a tough love speech coach. And so he built the GPT using knowledge from some of the really good presenters, like a Earl Nightingale and a Steve Jobs and Simon Sinek, all these people that do a really good job of speaking, kind of built it out and said, here's how people speak. This is excellent. This is what it is. And so whenever I present, I always record my presentation using my Plod Note. I take that presentation, I transcribe it. And then after I get done, I load my slides, I load my transcript, I load my audio file into this Tough Love Coach. And I say, hey, I just did a presentation for so-and-so. Here's the topic. And it'll ask me, who was the audience? What was your key message that you were trying to deliver? And then it says, how do you want me to rate you? Is this friendly feedback, kind of, or do you want me to take the gloves off and tell you what I really think? And I'm like, take off the gloves. Let me have it. And so it dives in, and it's pretty right between the eyes. Like, when you're doing stuff right, it'll, your analogy of this was really good, but you went way too deep on this, squirrel. You need to dial that back, dude, because this is not helping things. But it gives like 5 or 6 different key categories. And then it gives you on a 0 to 10 scale where you rank. So if it's 7 or an 8, you're pretty happy. If it's in the 5s or the 4s, you're like, oh, I gotta do that a little bit better next time. That's been tremendously helpful, speaking of feedback, because it has no shame telling you exactly what it thinks, but it's based off of other speeches, how you do your intro and how you set things up and the analogies and the way that you weave humor appropriately into a presentation, and how do you close and leave people wanting more. It's been really cool. It's been really, really cool.
And what's it called, Eric?
I'll have to get the name of it. He doesn't have it published, but I'm betting that if you would like to use it, if you've got a recording of any of your presentations, I'll send you the link to the GPT after this, and you can check it out, because I think you'd really enjoy it. But you've got to have a recording and a transcript and then your PowerPoint presentation, so it can get a sense of what you said, how you said it, and what you were saying it to. But as an after the fact, it's been a really, really good coach. It's helped me. It's given me some ideas, because like you, I'm on the road a lot, doing a lot of presentations. And so anything that I can do, because the humans, are going to say, that was great. You did a good job. Nobody wants to hurt your feelings. Everybody, well, there might've been a couple things, but I'm not going to mention it because, it was no big deal. This one is just like, nope, I'm going to tell you, you screwed this one up, dude. And you need to do that better. And that was, so they're pretty good. And so I'm a big fan. So I don't know if Gunner's in the audience now or he's going to catch us later, but I will make sure to make sure he knows that if his ears are ringing right now, that there's a reason for it, that it's my fault. So
that's too bad that Autumn Jose couldn't be part of this happy hour today, because she's so involved with Toastmasters.
Yeah, and I think this like lines right up with the Toastmasters, like when she's doing her meetings. Yeah, it's a bummer, but I know she's really dove in a lot to that to help with her public speaking. I'm not that familiar with the Toastmasters. I know of it, but I've there's no real chapters around. I've not known anybody that's really gone through and been part of that. I don't know if you've got any experience with Toastmasters or if you've done it or ever been to a meeting, but it seems like a really good thing. And especially when, they say statistically more people would rather go to a funeral than speak in front of a live audience, and be the one that's at the funeral. Like, they would not like to speak in front of people. And I think Toastmasters helps you get over that fear pretty good.
I think they're pretty good at critiquing
Yeah.
the presentations and all of that. I had a mini training of that many years ago, and I liked it, but that's the only thing. But you and I, we don't mind getting up and speaking with people. That's fun.
Yeah. I did a session for the Pacific Coast Banking School. I think I've been teaching there for maybe 9 years. I think this is my 9th year. But in one of the first years, they've got a presenter elective, and the gentleman that does the presenter elective also does a pre-session, and you can take it as a reminder. And so I did that once, and everybody got the little dog clickers that go, and went through. And so you then had to go up, you had to be videotaped, which when the video camera's on, that's an extra layer of pressure. And he was sitting there and other people were sitting there. So if you didn't do something right with your hands, if you put them in your pocket, if you said the word or ah, all you heard was the little clicks from the audience where they were like the visual cues, like, nope, shouldn't have done that. And then after you were done, he rewound the video and you had to sit there and watch yourself present. And it was one of the most uncomfortable things I think I've ever done, because it was like, I don't want to watch this. And there was too many clicks. But like anything worth value, you're likely going to experience a little bit of pain, along the way, because you're building a muscle, and that doesn't happen without a little discomfort. So at the end of the day, I think it was valuable, but not been in a room before where people are clicking when you're making a mistake and really drawing your attention to it. Like, oh, shouldn't have done that. Whoops. So that was pretty crazy. So, what else you got? I got a few things that I just wanted to toss out from some high level observations at social media marketing world that I can share. But if there's,
please do.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is I feel like I have developed, at least for me, a pretty good approach at attending events. And that involves, I've already mentioned my Plod Note. If you're not familiar with that, it's this little device that sits on the back of my phone through a magnetic case, and it goes with me everywhere. And so when I'm in an event, whether I'm speaking, as I'm coughing and I can't get the words out, I'm speaking or I'm in the audience listening to somebody else present, I press the button to capture it so I can get the audio. The audio then is transcribed, and then the transcription, the text, goes into like a Chat GPT agent inside of the Plod ecosystem and generates a summary. So it bullet points things, it pulls out highlights, and it's given me the freedom to be less dependent on jotting notes down, because if I'm writing, I'm not listening, and then I'm going to miss something. And then for some events, I will still physically take notes and type and do screenshots. And if I'm at a physical event, it's usually me in the front row with my iPad flipping up picture, type, picture, type, with my Plod there kind of paying attention. And so when I did social media marketing world, because I was not there in person, I had 3 monitors, created kind of a system, and I captured almost 180 pages of notes between screenshots and bullet points and other sorts of things, which was great. I took that document and built it into a GPT, did some analysis, did some review to help me understand it better, build a Notebook LM, which I've talked about before, where I dumped it into Notebook LM and did an audio overview. Hey, give me an audio summary, go deep. What are the things that came out of my notes that were really important, that resonated, that I need to make sure that I follow up on, that our customers would be interested in, that the banking industry would be interested in learning more about. And so I've listened to that a few times. So figuring out a process of learning, consuming, and understanding, I've been very intentional with that. And the other event that I dive in headfirst on is the Maycon conference in October through the Marketing AI Institute and Smarter X. So that's in Cleveland every year in October. And so that's all marketing AI stuff, but AI in other areas as well. So those are fire hose moments, and you're just capturing so much information. But out of the social media marketing world, lots of stuff, but a couple of the high levels. One is, we've already talked a little bit about it, but the resurgence to community. Mari Smith, I'll mention her specifically because it stands out. She is the Pied Piper of Facebook. Mari is her first name, Mari Smith. Um, Her session was about Facebook, but it was also about the broader perspective of social engagement and interaction and building relationships. And one of her slides essentially was a quote from someone else, but she was leaning into it because she's done an amazing job of building a Facebook community of people that lean on her to learn Facebook. I don't know how many people are in her private Facebook group, but it's thousands. And she said, in the near future, there will be two sets of people. There will be those who have figured out a way to build a community of people that they want to serve and are serving them and helping them come together and build relevancy and engagement and connectivity, like through a Facebook group with the LinkedBanker. We use a platform called Circle SO. Others are out there. And there's going to be a group of people that aren't going to do that. And they're going to wonder where other connections went, because they're not going to have a relationship. They're not going to have the connectivity. They're not going to have the email addresses and the relevance to be present, to be thought of, which was another kind of reassurance. And we're thinking about the future of the LinkedBanker community, because right now it's a restricted community that you pay a membership fee to get into. We're actually looking at maybe changing that up a little bit to be able to welcome more people into the LinkedBanker. And so stay tuned for more information on that. I still haven't decided exactly how that's going to roll out, but the concept of going back to the community was one that I was really intrigued by. We saw some banks when COVID hit and PPP was a thing, where they actually created private groups on Facebook for their business customers to come together and talk about the challenges of COVID and PPP and what questions. And what was really interesting for some of the banks that did that is they did it originally thinking that they would be the ones as the bank answering all the questions. And what they found was when they brought everybody together that had a common interest, the business owners were asking other business owners questions, and the bank just kind of sat back, got credit for being the collaborator, like the party organizer, but through a really awesome party that had a lot of people that had a lot of stuff in common, and everybody was in the party enjoying the discussions with each other. Because, if I'm a business and I have to keep everybody 6 feet, and, how do I, do outside dining when it's getting cold, and what does it do to my insurance rates if I bring in these propane tulip heaters, and how does that work? But I can't have so many people in the restaurant, but I still want to serve food. That's not a question that the bank could answer, but that's totally a question that another restaurant that already addressed that had a conversation with their insurance company, had been through. So it was like they were facilitating answers. And then as there was stuff that was coming up, the bank could sit back and kind of poach and go, hey, that might make a really good blog post, or this might be a really cool information, or this might be something to put in our newsletter. Because now you could be witness to what everybody was talking about, and then interject the ways that you could help, but not disrupt the conversation that was going on. And so that, I think, is coming back around, which is again in opposition of all of this AI generated, faceless, generic content that's still good and it's still informational, but it just doesn't feel like anybody in particular.
That's incredible value that bank brought to its customers.
Oh, huge.
Incredible value.
Yeah.
And so somebody thought about that and they didn't think, oh, well, how do we pay for it? How do we charge for it? They did it.
Yeah.
And like, what can we learn from that now that they could still be doing to build community with their customers? I love that idea. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was really cool. We're all familiar with short form video and the TikToks and the Instagram reels and the YouTube shorts. That format of video is now being used by the younger generation, not just to get information, but almost to be used intentionally as a search engine, where they're seeing trends with the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas going to TikTok and these short form video platforms and they're searching, looking for videos that answer their questions. They're not going to Google. They're not going to, the traditional places. So that was another message to brands, that if that's a demographic that you want to go after, are you producing fun, entertaining, on brand, relevant, trendy, hip worthy, whatever you want to call it, content that's fun to watch, but is also answering the questions that people have. And I think about, that mortgage guy who blew up TikTok during the mortgage days and COVID, but all the fun TikTok videos that he was doing for the first time homeowners and dispelling myths and talking about grant programs that the traditional banks either don't have access to or aren't talking about. Fun educational content is no longer just finding you in the algorithm because TikTok changed the way social media reaches us, but people are actively using that type of video as a proxy to a search engine. And I thought that was fascinating, because how many banks do you know that are actively getting their employees involved creating fun TikTok videos? Not a lot, I would say, because they can't get people to be on video. They don't know what to say. We're a bank, we're boring, or compliance won't let us. But that's where people are looking for answers. And the number of younger people that are getting financial advice from platforms like TikTok, I don't know the statistics, but it's a lot bigger than what I think most bankers would think. Is TikTok where you want your future customers getting their financial advice? Probably not, unless you're a part of it and helping to contribute to feed the right information. So that was a really cool aha moment as well. But I just looked at the time and holy crap, Martha, we've burnt through an hour.
We did. And I see nobody put any questions in the chat.
I know. I mean, this might just be the Martha and Eric show, for today, but I can tell you, I absolutely loved the conversation, and it was so good to have you back and hear what's on your mind and spark some ideas and some thoughts. So it's cool. If somebody wanted to connect with you, obviously you're on LinkedIn and you post great stuff. Is that the best place to find you? What's your website? Give yourself a little plug here before we wrap up.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, or my website is banktastic.com. And there's tons of content there. And I would welcome feedback.
Yeah, very cool. Good. And you can find me here, obviously, on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, but primarily on LinkedIn. I didn't get much of a chance, and I got it so darn small because I put so much in there. So our agency is WSI, powered by WSI.com. You've got the LinkedBanker as our mentoring and our mastermind community. And then last month, which eventually I'll start talking about, we actually launched communitybanking.ai, which is our dedicated site leaning into how we help community bankers figure out how to responsibly and strategically implement artificial intelligence inside of the organization. And that's been a lot of fun. We've got some banks that have trusted us and brought us under their wing, and we're working with their team and exploring things together. And we're looking forward to doing more of that. So communitybanking.ai has got some info about myself and Robert, our chief AI officer, and Josh, who's our chief AI architect. But the three of us, I'm not going to say the Three Stooges, but we do like to have some fun when we get together, are doing some fun stuff and really enjoying exploring all this AI. So pop over and check that out, and put on your calendar for the next second Thursday in June. Come back and see us at 5:00 Eastern time. Hopefully your schedule will allow, Martha, and we'll be able to see you again. And maybe we can even coax some other folks to come up on stage with us. But it's been a real treat having you with me today, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. And I'm sure everyone else who remained silent was just baffled by the amazing info we were sharing, and they just couldn't even think of anything to say. So we're going to go with that. But anyway, thanks for joining today. We'll see you on the next one, or before then at an event or an activity or on a comment or a post somewhere out there in the world of social media. So bye for now. See you, Martha.
Thank you, Eric. It was awesome.
Bye-bye.